Well, I never thought I'd see the day, but it's here. Socialism is becoming more and more popular with the younger generation. The ideology is also growing within the progressive wing of the Democrat Party. A leading expert on socialism now warns that its origins are very disturbing and that Marx himself was obsessed with Satan. Dale Hurd explains.
Almost two-thirds of Americans under 30 now hold a favorable view of socialism.
Are you a young person fed up with greedy bosses?
We are working more hours for less money than literally any other generation.
We believe capitalism is a deeply unjust, exploitative, and undemocratic system. And
socialism is the answer to capitalism, and it is the only answer.
The frontrunner to become the next mayor of New York City proudly calls himself a democratic socialist. And Zohran Mamdani says he wants to ban extreme wealth.
You are a self-described democratic socialist. Do you think that billionaires have a right to exist?
I don't think that we should have billionaires because, frankly, it is so much money in a moment of such inequality.
Bernie Sanders and AOC have also helped boost the popularity of democratic socialism. They'll tell you they want to help people, although the principles they espouse come through a very troubled man who, according to historians, if he was not a Satanist, was obsessed with Satan. Dr. Paul Kengor, editor of the American Spectator and a political science professor at Grove City College, is the author of The Devil and Karl Marx. Kengor says Marx was also a playwright and poet, and his writings included many references to Satan and hell.
The Pale Maiden, 1887. Thus heaven I've forfeited. I know it full well. My soul, once true to God, is chosen for hell. Now that's Marx, one of his poems. Another one, Karl Marx, the Player, 1841. This is the same decade when he wrote the Communist Manifesto. See the sword, the prince of darkness sold it to me. For he beats the time and gives the signs. Ever more boldly I played the dance of death.
Marx also wrote, I wish to avenge myself against the one who rules above. Kengor says Marx told his children stories about a toy maker who sold his soul to the devil. Karl Marx's father said his son's heart was governed by a demon, and Marx was by all accounts a terrible husband, father, and provider who sponged off his relatives and friends.
So Marx the man was somebody very lazy, refused to work, did not take care of his family, his home, even himself. Refused to bathe, smelled, had boils and sores all over his body.
Marx's Communist Manifesto calls for the abolition of religion and calls the family unit disgusting. This year's Democratic Socialist annual convention in Chicago called for the abolition of the family, and like Marx, compared marriage to prostitution. One attendee said abortion should be done in churches. Zohran Mamdani spoke at the group's 2023 convention.
Hello, DSA members.
It also seems as if some of those pushing democratic socialism are confused about what socialism actually is.
When I talk about democratic socialism, I'm not looking at Venezuela. I'm not looking at Cuba. I'm looking at countries like Denmark and Sweden.
Yet neither Denmark nor Sweden are socialist. Both rank higher than the United States on the Heritage Foundation's Index of Economic Freedom. Both have market economies with generous welfare benefits. Nations that have called themselves socialist have had the most oppressive and deadly governments in the last 100 years. Historians say the number of victims killed under socialism is more than 100 million. The late pastor Richard Wurmbrand, who was tortured and imprisoned in communist Romania, said jailers would yell, "We are the devil," as they tortured Christians. Kengor says Christians who think socialism is good because they see it like the sharing among believers in the book of Acts are mistaken.
These people have private property. They are choosing voluntarily on their own in the love of Christ to share their things to help their brother. Communism is a government by fiat and coercion who comes in and takes over an entire country and forces everybody at gunpoint or gulag, religious or not, to hand over their stuff.
Yet the appeal of socialism seems stronger than ever among America's youth. Kengor says that's only because many don't understand what socialism truly is. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Unless you think that somehow we're being overly dramatic in saying that there's a satanic birth of socialism, that Marx was inspired. Well, here's a quote for you. He was fascinated with a writing from Goethe. He was a German poet, novelist, philosopher. He wrote this thing called Faust. And we say Faustian bargains, that you sell your soul to the devil. And he actually claimed he had done that. But here's the quote. He quoted from this work, and he's quoting the devil. Everything that exists deserves to perish. He quoted that again and again and again. Now, you look at the current things that are running through our culture. There's something called critical theory that comes as an intellectual movement out of Germany. But it seems to have taken over academics here in the United States. And it's absolutely part of Black Lives Matter, that the entire system is corrupt and racist, and it has to be destroyed. When you get into the roots of this, who comes to rob and to kill and to destroy? Well, when you put it in those terms, well, it's quite obvious what's behind it. But when you put it in terms of we have to have some kind of racial divide, and if you're white, you're an oppressor, and if you're black, you're oppressed, and everything in the system is geared against you, and you deserve out of justice to tear everything down. Well, in that, you're going to end up with absolute destruction. And when you look at socialism and you look at communism over the last 100 years, it has been absolutely horrible for every country that went into that. Russia is now this sort of strange, if you have influence, then you get the money. China had a brief period of capitalism that was dispersed, but it's turned into that as well. You don't get the goodies unless you've got the power. And you look at that and you look at the number of people that have died. How could anyone in the United States say socialism is the right way to go? Now, on the other side of this equation, we have to look at student loans, that the oppressive debt that we've put our college graduates into, the corresponding inflation of prices for colleges, where it's literally out of the reach of the average person unless you take the loans. And then you look at, well, Germany and Europe doesn't have any college tuition. The state provides all of that. Well, now suddenly socialism gets very appealing. And we as a nation ran into that after World War II with the extraordinary poverty that Europe was suffering in. Communism, socialism is very appealing to people that don't have hope, that can't see a way to get out of debt, can't see a way to put food on the table. It becomes very appealing to say, well, give the power to us and we'll give all that to you. So where is our compassion for those who are in debt? Where is our compassion for the poor? That needs to be front and center now, because if we go down the road of socialism, watch out. They come and they take everything. And they literally do destroy everything and say, we have to rebuild some socialist utopia, and you're now a counter-revolutionary. We're going to put you in jail. We're going to put you in the gulag. We're going to have re-education through forced labor. All of those things have happened. We can't have that happen here. So be aware of the root of it. And anytime you hear somebody say the whole system has to be torn down, recognize the source of that phrase.
The book of Revelation, of course, is the most controversial and complex book in the New Testament. This is the book of martyrs. And the basic message is Christians be ready for persecution, prosecution, maybe even execution. This is really the origin of the word martyr, because the word martus in Greek means witness.
Well, that was just a brief scene from CBN's latest production, Oracles of God, the Story of the New Testament. This film captures all the drama, the danger, and the divine power behind the words and the book that changed the world. It explores how the Gospels, the letters, and eyewitness testimonies were preserved from the first century, passed down faithfully through the generations to us today. The Bible that we have today is the same Bible, the same New Testament that the early church had. For 3 days only, November 2nd, November 3rd, and November 5, you can experience this film in theaters nationwide. To get your tickets, go to cbn.com/tickets. And we want advance sales here. We're in over 800 theaters nationwide. And if we have enough advance sales, we can open up in even more theaters. So go and buy the tickets, cbn.com/tickets, and get Oracles of God, the Story of the New Testament. This isn't an ordinary documentary. It's the story behind the New Testament. And once you see it, you'll never open your Bible the same way again.